Hi team, it's Josh, and I'm on a quest to find the highest powered portable laptop that runs cool and quiet. Which brings me to this laptop, the Gigabyte Aero 15 OLED. This is a great laptop with some gotchas, but it gets a solid buy rating from me, and I'll likely be keeping it. I've got here the 1660 Ti 8GB of RAM, 256GB SSD model. The reason I chose this model is I have plenty of sticks of RAM around the house and extra NVMe SSDs. So I was able to easily open up the back of the laptop and replace the single 8GB Samsung stick with two 8GB of RAM sticks, bringing it to a total of 16 gigs at 266 MHz. Next, the 1660 Ti. This is a 4K panel. Neither this model, the 2060 or the 2070 Max-Q versions, will be able to run games at high settings for modern titles at 4K. Therefore, I'll be downscaling this to 1080. Now, it's my belief that 1660 Ti in this model should be great for running games at 60 FPS on modern titles. More on this later. Alright. Let's get into the review. I'm going to review this laptop my way, which means I'm going to focus on the experience of what it's like to actually use this laptop for content creation, gaming, programming, or browsing the web. I'm not going to shower you with endless benchmarks because there are already great laptop reviewers out there that do that, links below. Let's hit performance straight out of the gate. Neither this laptop nor the Razer Blade 15 are the top performing laptops with this CPU. That's because these laptops are designed to balance performance with portability and, of course, low fan noise coming from heat generated from the CPUs. This machine and the Blade are both undervolted out of the box, but it still isn't enough. They take very different approaches to thermal management. With the fan set to the normal fan curve, the Aero thermal throttles once the CPU temps hit 90 Celsius and the cores drop initially to 3.4 GHz and eventually stabilize around 2.8 with a power draw of 50 watts. The Blade takes a different approach, limiting the CPU's power delivery to 45 watts for all but the shortest tasks. It quickly drops straight to 2.8 GHz on all cores, but it keeps the CPU substantially cooler and the machine quieter than the Aero 15 OLED. All in all, the Aero 15 outperforms the Razer Blade for CPU tasks. My CPU results for this laptop on Cinebench R15 and Geekbench 4 are about 15% slower than what I got on my Legion Y7000, which had last year's 8750H CPU. GPU-wise, you can see on screen the scores for the Aero 1660 Ti, for Firestrike, and now TimeSpy. And for comparison, here are the scores for the Razer Blade 2070 Max-Q, for Firestrike, and now TimeSpy. What you'll see here is the Blade with the 2070 Max-Q is about 25% faster in these tests. Just as a point of reference on the Aero, I get about 55 to 60 FPS on Battlefield 5 at high settings at 1080 resolution with that 1660 Ti. And I get about 70 to 80 FPS on the Blade 2070 Max-Q. This surprised and a little disappointed me, as I really thought I'd get a minimum of 60 FPS on high settings, 1080 resolution for that 1660 Ti. Two important notes on performance. I would likely have been able to eke out more performance from this laptop if I ramp up the fans further. That being said, I really wanted to run the tests on a mode that I would actually use. If I was happier with louder fan noise, I would be looking at a different laptop. And secondly, this laptop's chassis runs substantially cooler than the Razer Blade 15 on high performance tasks, which makes it a more comfortable experience to use. Let's get into the pros. This OLED screen is absolutely awesome. And seriously, it's ruined me for all other screens. It is so bright and vibrant. And one surprising thing I found, which is the opposite of what other reviewers are saying, is I found on fast-paced FPS games like Battlefield 5, it was easier for me to play on this screen at 60 FPS than on a higher refresh rate screen going to like 80 FPS like my Razer Blade. That's because I found it so much easier to make out enemies with the clarity and brightness of this screen. The screen is covered with glass and it is a little bit reflective, but they handle it pretty well. And with that brightness, it's actually an okay performer outdoors. The laptop chassis is an all metal build and feels very well built, but lightweight at the same time. They really have done a great job here. Here it is side by side with the Razer Blade 15. As you can see, it's a very similar form factor, except the Aero is a little deeper. Let's talk about the keyboard and trackpad. This is one of the best keyboards I've ever used. It has the right amount of clickiness and ample key travel. The trackpad is good, and I've had absolutely no problems with it. Now, the laptop runs pretty quiet, which is great and something I'm very fussy about. It's not as quiet as the Razer Blade 15, where the fans are almost always off, but it's still quiet enough for sure. And there's no high-pitched whine coming from the fans when the fans really speed up. Take a listen at the Gigabyte Aero 15's fans and then the Razer Blade 15's fans for comparison. Battery life on this laptop is very good for one with an OLED screen. I'm getting about 4 to 6 hours of usage for everyday tasks with screen brightness set to 80. That's much better than I was getting on the Razer Blade 15, where I was only getting around 2 to 3 hours. Now, Gigabyte does cap all the CPU cores at 2 GHz on battery power, and I found no way of changing that in the software provided. A couple of other benefits of this laptop. The SD card reader in the laptop is such a relief, and it is really, really fast. And lastly, but very importantly, this laptop doesn't crash. I have had absolutely no crashes, freezes, or blue screens on it. We're going to get into the cons now, and some of these are going to sound bad, but please bear in mind that in my opinion, these are livable. Firstly, let's talk about coil whine. When this machine is being pushed, something like rendering video, from this area of the laptop, I hear substantial electrical noise. Take a listen. Now, in my usage case, and I believe I'm a bit of a power user, I hear this around 1% of the time I'm using the laptop or less. It's not common. I am going to send the laptop back to get it replaced to see if another unit has this problem. I am somewhat tempted to try the 8-core model. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like me to do that in the replacement unit. That being said, based on what we discussed earlier for thermals, I'm not expecting that much performance out of an 8-core for this model. The speakers on this laptop aren't great. They're acceptable, but they're not anything to write home about. Out of the box, the sound wasn't that loud, and they're downward facing, which means if you plan to use this laptop propped up in bed, your comforter might actually block the speakers a little bit. I was able to download the Nahimic Audio app from the Microsoft Store, which enabled me to boost the volumes a bit. Overall, after the adjustment, the sound was certainly better, but it still wasn't that great. There are no lights on the function keys, which is definitely frustrating. And when I try to use Gigabyte's Command Center software to set different colors for the function keys to indicate things like screen brightness, the application frequently crashes. That being said, I was able to set the colors in the end. I really hope they fix the stability of this app. The screen can be opened with one hand, but the screen hinge isn't the most sturdy, as you can see here. The power cable connector isn't in the most ideal place, but honestly it's not that bad. It's located here. They do provide a right angle connector to it, so it runs down the back. That being said, if you are right-handed, your wall socket's over there, there is a slight chance that it might pull along where the mouse is. That being said, I am right-handed, my wall socket is over that side, and I haven't noticed an issue with it. On moderately intensive tasks such as editing video in Premiere, I'm not talking about rendering, the fans do spin up more than I believe is necessary, even on quiet mode. That being said, they're not overly loud or annoying. Now, the webcam is terrible. I won't go into any more details here, it's been widely covered. There's glass on the display, and it would have been really nice if they put in a touchscreen. Anyway, in summary, this laptop is phenomenal. It really correctly balances power with a great experience. It's got an awesome display, it's got a great keyboard, it's got a good trackpad, it doesn't get overly loud when running intensive tasks, and it doesn't get uncomfortably warm to the touch. If you like this video, I would greatly appreciate it if you click that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, or if you've got questions on this laptop or any other laptop, reply with comments. Till next time, I will catch you later.